Hello, this is the second of my series of Get Out of the Way video talks. In this one, I discuss some of my Maverick views of leadership. All of these concepts are discussed in greater depth in my book, Get Out of the Way. Just what is a Maverick? The term originated in Texas, where Sam Maverick, a pioneer, refused to brand his calves. Therefore, the term began to be used to identify any individual who stubbornly refused to follow the dictates of a group. I prefer this definition: a member of any group who, in refusing to conform, takes an independent stand apart from their associates, in the strong belief that they are right and others are wrong. My heroes have always been Mavericks. Those who, in refusing to accept the beliefs and dictates of the consensus, have shown us the right paths and opened our eyes to broad new vistas. There are times when the correct or proper way of doing something will lead us astray. Often we sense that something isn't quite right, but the experts are telling us that this is the way to do it. So we do it their way and blame the not working on our own incompetence, when the real problem is a flawed process. For example, let's take the phrase "don't assume." I'm sure most of you have heard this at one time or another. In fact, to emphasize the importance of the phrase, we're often told, "Don't assume. It makes an ass out of you and me." Essentially, this phrase is used by the ignorant manager who has no idea of how to be an effective leader. The effective leader never, and I mean never, asks their people to do something that is impossible to do. Think about it. It's impossible to make a decision without making some assumptions. I don't care if you want to ask someone to marry you, decide on a new supplier, or buy that new home you've always wanted. There's always assumptions. Additionally, and from a leadership point of view, saying "don't assume" blocks communication. That's the end of the discussion. You as the manager have not learned anything about what really went wrong, and therefore have no chance of correcting the problem. So what do we say? We ask the question, what assumptions were made? Asking this question leads us into a problem-solving discussion. Handling this discussion effectively will inevitably lead us to the solution. How do you handle the discussion effectively? This involves effective listening and leads us to our second Maverick concept. Programs that teach listening skills are a waste of time. You heard me right, but I will repeat it. Programs that teach listening skills are a waste of time. Why? Because you already know how to listen. You just choose not to at times, and quite often you're choosing not to listen when it is critically important that you listen carefully. Again, this is obvious. If you could spend the evening with anyone you desired, could sit at the feet of any master, alive or dead, tell me that you would need a lesson in listening before you met with him or her. Ineffective listening is not a skill-based problem. It is an attitudinal problem, and as such, it can only be fixed by changing your attitude. So how do we go about changing attitude? Your curiosity is the answer. Your natural curiosity is the secret to effective listening. Curiosity is a natural human trait. Those of you with children or nieces and nephews know this to be true. However, many of us were told to stop asking why, or that curiosity killed the cat. It's time to unleash your curiosity. It's time to start asking why again. Why do you believe that? Why is this happening? Why do you feel that way? One of my major concepts involves the relationship between what I call the four siblings of management: decision making, problem solving, conflict resolution, and negotiation. There are three basic steps to handling all of these issues, and step one is to gain understanding. None of these issues can be handled without first gaining understanding, and the only way to gain understanding is to listen effectively, with curiosity, from the heart, not the head. Now it's time to really shake things up. Here's Maverick concept number 3. Hiring by resume is a bad idea. Let me be very clear. Selecting potential candidates by analyzing resumes does not guarantee you of finding the right people. Remember my basic definition of effective leadership? Find the right people, show them how good they are, and then get out of the way. Well, your first objective is to find the right people, and depending upon resumes as the first step in the process is a very bad idea indeed. Why? Because while there's a very good chance that you will interview those who have enhanced their resume, claimed knowledge, skills, and experience they really don't have, there's an even better chance that you will not interview those who have knowledge and skills critical to your operation that cannot be reflected in a resume. The right people are those that can get the job done. That's the bottom line. Can they get the job done? You really don't care where they got the skills and knowledge, only can they get the job done? A resume only gives credit to the official ways of gaining skills and knowledge. But there are ways that don't fit the resume. My major concern isn't hiring people who don't live up to their resume claims. I can always fire them. My concern is not finding the best person to get the job done because they don't have resume acceptable credentials. I remember a time when I was the vice president of product development for a new data mining company, doing data collection and analysis for online retailers. We were looking for database administrators, and I had contracted with an employment agency to supply me with the candidates. This is Kathleen's story. My contact Betty at the employment agency asked me for basic qualifications. I replied, they have to have a passion about database creation and analysis. No, what I mean is, how much experience do they need? What levels of education are you looking for? Again, I replied, they have to have a passion about database creation and analysis. Betty looked confused and asked, I don't understand. Am I not being clear? I smiled and replied, no, you're being very clear. What I mean is, I don't want to judge anyone on their resume knowledge, skills, and experience. I want you to send me anyone who has a passion for databases. I don't care what experience they have, what schools they went to, or what certificates they've obtained. I only care that they have a passion for databases. Okay, I'll do that, but you're going to be getting resumes from a lot of unqualified people. You let me worry about that. We have our ways of finding the right people. Within a week, Betty had supplied me with a little more than 50 resumes. The first step in my process is to call every candidate personally and discuss what I consider to be the deal-breaking issues. Again, even though I was being supplied with the resumes, I wasn't interested in reading them. In fact, I consciously didn't read them. I didn't want to form any opinions until after I had talked to the person. The only thing I got from the resume was the individual's name and phone number. Other managers have told me that they didn't have time to call and talk with every potential candidate, that they had other more important things to attend to. My response is always, what could be more important than finding the right person? Your success as a manager is dependent on your building the best possible team. Back to my story. A couple of hours into the process, I called Kathleen. It was obvious from the beginning that she was passionate about databases. She seemed familiar with every major database except for Oracle. She told me, I want to learn Oracle, but I can't get any information without working for a company that is using the Oracle database. They won't allow it. This was bottom line for her. She wanted to work for a company where she could learn the Oracle database. Once I discover a person's passion, I strive to feed it. If I can, they will be a loyal, committed, hardworking team member. Exactly what I'm looking for. I told Kathleen, we're not doing any Oracle work at this time, but there's a good possibility that we will be. I will promise you this. If we give you the opportunity to come to work for us and we gain an Oracle contract, you will be assigned to that team. How does that sound? That would be wonderful. At this point, she was sold. I now could focus on gaining more information. It turned out that Kathleen had no experience, no credentials of any kind. Everything she knew came from personal research at her kitchen table. That didn't matter to me. I put a star at the top of her resume to notify Stephen, our director of engineering, that I wanted Kathleen to come in for an interview. The next day, Stephen came into my office and asked, why in the world are we interviewing this Kathleen person? Because I put a star on her resume? Did you even read her resume? You know I didn't, but I can tell you this from my talk with her. She doesn't have any experience or official education, no certificates. So if you know that, why would we interview her? Well, first of all, because I put a star on her resume. Stephen did not look happy with that response. Okay. I put a star there because I like her attitude, and she's passionate about databases. I think she could be a good candidate, and I don't want to toss her away just because she doesn't have the proper credentials. Bottom line, Kathleen flew through all of the interviews, including a 3-hour whiteboard where she was grilled by all of our programmers. She ended up not only being our first hire, but the lead on the Oracle project we got a couple of months later. She was the exact right person for the job. This finishes the second talk in my series of video talks. The third is my solution for the energy crisis, a simple, effective solution that needs to be taken seriously by the powers that be. Brad Frager here. Thank you once again for joining me.